Well, and then on the morning of November the 11th, 2015, 6 ministers took oath of office, signaling the constitution of President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet. In groups of 4, the ministers were called forward and the oath was administered on them.
For over 2 hours, President Buhari watched as his ministers file out in 9 batches of 4 each to get the oaths administered on them. At the last count, 36 of them are to man 24 ministries, following his promise to cut down the number of ministries due to cash crunch in the country. As if to answer critics, the president said he and his vice president have been mindful of the need to constitute a cabinet that will deliver their expectations for a better country than they met. He is optimistic that the expectations will not be cut short.
Since we assumed office in May, I have been mindful of the need to ensure that the appointment of new ministers translates into putting round pegs in round holes while showing sensitivity to our diversity as a people and our various positions as groups of stakeholders of our country. I have also been conscious of the need not to repeat such mistakes of the past where the right people were allocated the wrong portfolios, which translated into their to our collective detriment despite their obvious capabilities.
The president said he is more determined to diversify using agriculture and solid minerals, as well as generate employment for youth and ensure security for the citizens.
We intend to pursue policies that will generate massive employment for millions of our youth. We shall employ 500,000 unemployed graduates and NCE holders.
And then to sectoral allocations, the president takes his time to explain the rationale for the allocation to the critical sectors of the economy.
We will devote a significant portion of our current expenditure to institutions that provide government services. We will spend 369.6 billion in education, 294.5 billion in defense, 221.7 billion in health, and 145.3 billion in the Ministry of Interior. This will ensure our teachers, armed forces personnel, doctors, nurses, policemen, firefighters, prison service officers, and many more critical service providers are paid competitively and on time. I know many people will say, we heard this before. Indeed, trust in government, due to the abuse and negligence of the past, is at all-time low. This means we must go back to basics. Our actions will speak for us.
All in all, the president and indeed his entire team appear to have their jobs well cut out.
In a box.
Yes, the document is being presented.
Nigerians are hopeful that this budget will deliver on the administration's mantra of change, a change that should be visible in the standard of living and the general quality of life of the average Nigerian.
And to further look at the major decisions being made in 2015, to discuss this, we've been joined by Dr. Boniface Chizia, a business analyst. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on 2015, the twists and turns. Let's begin by getting your thoughts. Government is focusing on diversification majorly away from oil. What key sectors do you suggest, or do you suppose, should take precedence?
Well, thank you very much, Gemba, for having me. I think the point to make straight away is that the economy is diversified as it is. You know, I mean, if you look at the economy and you look at GDP, contribution to the economy, you find that we are overly diversified. Oil contributes about 14% to our GDP. Agriculture is about 22%. Even ICT, entertainment, they contribute. I think where you have issues is revenue contribution, in the sense that you find that 90% of the foreign exchange that accrues to government comes from oil. So that's where you have issues. But if you look at the details of budget 2016, and if that budget is going to be implemented, then at the end of the period, we're well home in terms of having our economy diversified, even from the perspective of revenue that accrues to the economy. And so if you look at the economy and say, okay, we're not going to look at what you have in the economy and say, where do we focus, in terms of having the economy diversified? We begin to look at things like agriculture. Agriculture is very important. In terms of, if you look at the contribution of agriculture to GDP, so like I said earlier, it was about 22%. If you look at the level of employment, one of the challenges we have in this economy is growing, particularly youth employment. So again, agriculture contributes massively, to employment opportunities within the economy. And so, to all intents and purposes, it's right to say that agriculture is the mainstay of this economy. And so if you're going to diversify, so if you diversify into agriculture, diversify into solid minerals, you're looking for areas that would reduce the vulnerability of this country. So we're talking about the areas where we can earn foreign exchange. Fortunately, there are various sectors in the economy where you can go into, even the oil sector. The oil sector itself, you find that gas is still being flared. So to the extent that we can also begin to optimize, on that resource. Okay, that's again a gold mine waiting for us to, to tap into. And so there are various segments in the economy that we can diversify. Unfortunately, if you're talking of really earning foreign exchange, you don't have any low-hanging fruits that you can go to and immediately, get foreign exchange to begin to come in. So we have to fashion out our modalities and stay the course, and then continue to implement, and then hope that at the end of the day, we will begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
All right, Dr. Chizia, 2.2 trillion naira, that's the amount of the budget deficit. It's huge. And then external borrowings are also going to expand in 2016. How are these two key aspects going to affect the implementation of the 2016 budget?
Well, you see that the economy is challenged. We need to grow the economy. And so if you want to grow the economy, then you want to begin to spend. So I've been on this platform, and I did say that we have to spend ourselves, out of this quagmire, that we found ourselves in. And so the deficit is okay. I mean, debt is not a problem. The problem has always been the fact that the money, we borrowed the debt, and then we don't know where it went into. And so you find that at the end of the day, you are mortgaging the future. And so even having the capacity, the ability to borrow, I think one of the things that should concern us is that are we going to be able to borrow? We're talking about 1.8 trillion naira we're going to borrow in the next one. I'm not concerned about the extent, the quantum of borrowing. I think that if we can borrow that money and we spend it judiciously, that's what's very important. You put it into infrastructure, you need to get this environment enabling. And now you're talking of employment creation and so on and so forth. The government, President spot on in saying that it has to be led by the private sector. And what the private sector needs to thrive in this economy is that it needs an enabling environment. So it's lacking. If you look at the issue of electricity, roads, security, and so on and so forth, water supply, taxation, multiple taxation, and you begin to look at things and then harmonize things. And then you get the private sector thriving and kicking, then they will bring the employment, they will grow the economy, and then the government will be there to, to tap in on the revenue. You take taxation, for instance. We're not taxing, so we are seeing a challenge. We are doing about, I think, 12%. What we should do. We do about 12% to GDP of our tax revenue. We should be the average. The benchmark is at 25%.
One of the biggest stories is that of the missing $20 billion. I mean, we cannot miss that in 2015. It was just so pronounced that it was on everybody's face when former governor of the central bank, Lamido Sanusi, made those observations. Now, do you see this government as one that can prevent further losses of Nigeria's hard-earned currency?
I think it's obvious. And, well, first of all, let me talk about $20 billion. I think that was comical in the sense that that became a moving target. So we went from 20, we went to 14, we went to 12, we went to 8, and so on and so forth. And that wasn't good for this economy. I think that's such a large amount of money. And I did also, as a record, have said that the Government Central Bank is not the Auditor General of the Federation, and then they should get on this business. If you had issues with, if you thought that there were leakages, as a concerned Nigerian, an important person, he has the right to bring it to the attention of the President and do it in a way that is not, we don't have such, it's not celebrated as it's became. So, and having said that, I think one of the things that President Buhari has going for him is the fact that he commands such his integrity. It's there for everybody to see. You can feel it, you can cut it. And you can see the respect he commanded when he went to the National Assembly. To present the budget. I read something in the paper, and I did say that that was wonderful. That was reminiscent of what it used to be. The aura, the halo about presenting the budget was brought back. So I think that when you have to see President Buhari is going to fight corruption. And you can see that the way it's going. But I think that, in fact, if we're going to have any issues with him, we should be advising him that corruption is like, I use the term, it's a journey, not a destination. You can never finish fighting corruption. And so if you mustn't stop running this country, the administration of this country, because of fighting corruption. I think the way it's appeared so far, the initial part of his administration, when we were all waiting with bated breath, for his team to be put in place, was that really he was fighting corruption. But of course, he knew what he was doing, and so everything is coming up okay now. But I think that we hit the ground running. But I make sure that because we don't have much time, this economy must be in a hurry, to catch up. We have some catching up to do.
Dr. Chizia, is strengthening Naira is key for economic growth. Lately, we've seen the Naira value dwindling. And the President said yesterday in the media chat that he's not considering devaluing the Naira. Let me ask you, should the Naira be devalued?
Well, let's put it in context. Why do you want to devalue the Naira? You want to devalue, see, but like the President did say, the President, to a large extent, I'm quite pleased that he seems to, beginning to have a handle.
Also continue with greater determination and focus to pursue our goals of ensuring improved security for our country and its citizens, and without letting up on our fight against corruption.
The President announced a reduction in the number of ministries and reels out the portfolios. He is happy that confidence is slowly returning into governance, calling on the new ministers to work steadily to justify the confidence reposed on them.
Our new ministers must proceed to work speedily and do their uttermost to justify the confidence we have placed in them, not only by their conduct, but also by their performance in their various positions. Regardless of the present challenges we are confronting, I believe all Nigerians will keep hope alive and sustain their optimism about the future of our economic well-being. The ministers have been rationalized and reduced to 24.
The President and his team have since gone into the first Federal Executive Council meeting immediately after the inauguration, perhaps a confirmation of their determination to hit the ground running, more determined than Nigerians have ever seen. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
You're watching 2015, The Twists and Turns. We're bringing it to you live from our studios here in Lagos. When we come back, we'll be looking more into the business segment that also defined 2015.
Well, before we go on that break, the tweets are coming in. Hopefully, we'll get to see some of the selfie pictures you've sent in. But I'll quickly read a tweet from David Adejumo. He says, waiting in anticipation for 2016, thanks to Channels TV for a wonderful service in the year 2015. And there's another one here from Ophasie EO. It says, National Assembly remains the weakest link in achieving change. Oh no. Presidency, take note. Well, we'll be right back.
Join us again.